Family Design Board for September 13th, 2010. I want to start out by saying 16 years ago my daughter was born today. Yes, and there are some other infamous birthdays today. One of them happens to be Michelle, and the other one is Jaime Limon. So September 13th is quite a day. Moving on to public comment. Well, actually, roll call. Gloria, do you want to do a roll call real fast?
Bernstein here. Carroll
Here.
Miller is absent. Woolery here. Zimmerman is absent or late. Deisler absent or late. Zink.
Here. Great. I'm going to open up public comment. Anybody who wishes to address the board about an item that is not currently on our agenda is welcome to speak. Seeing nobody, I will close public comment and move on to item B, which is the approval of the minutes for the Single Family Design Board for August 30th. Do I have a first and a second motion for that? First by Denise, second by Aaron. Were there any comments by any board members? I actually reviewed them online and thought they were fine. Anybody else? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to the consent calendar. First is September 7th, 2010. Do I have a first? First by Denise, second by Bernie. Do you want to go over that, Michelle?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The consent agenda for Monday, September 7th. Item A, 754, Alameda Padre Serra. Final approval as noted. And the consent agenda was reviewed by Paul Zink and Denise Woolery.
Wonderful. So with that, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the consent calendar for September 13th, which was today. Do I have a first? First by Denise, second by Aaron.
Yes, consent agenda for today, Monday, September 13th. Item A, 819 Roberto Avenue. Final approval as submitted. Item B, 1335 Mission Ridge Road. Final approval as submitted. And items reviewed by Paul Zink and Denise Woolery.
All right. Any other discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving right along, we are on announcements. Any announcements or requests by applicants? None whatsoever. Hello. And subcommittee reports, I don't believe there are any. So with that, we will move to item 1, which is 2010 Emerson Avenue. This is for final review, so I won't read the project description. Hello, your names for the record?
Mark Mirando, agent.
Brad Simon, the owner.
All right. I'm going to make you second in charge. If you can find the minutes from the previous meeting and just go through those.
The minutes from the previous meeting is number 1, study the balcony overhang.
Okay.
Number 2, design provides consistency in appearance, and project is compatible with the neighborhood. Provide quality of architecture and materials. Oh, okay.
There you go.
There you go. That's it.
So the only action item was balcony overhang.
Right.
All right, you're up.
So basically, the only thing that changed on the first sheet is we made the note that it would be a, that the hedge would be of boxwood.
Boxwood hedge under coral tree to screen parking.
Right, and she had mentioned that the Black Beauty was a nice one, but I couldn't remember at the time, but I'll done on there. I did change the scale of this.
So they're all the same.
Right, and then we went to the deck, which sits out 310. It's 11 feet 10 inches. Here's the detail, but we'll go back when we look at the elevation real quick. My brother and I looked at it the last couple days, and we took Jim's advice and brought the roof out over it. So it's a 6x6 post with 2x picket rails kind of to match the bottom, with a curved rail on top. It's 3 feet 6 high. as the post comes up in the front, the beam that goes across, we tried boxing out the eaves and it just didn't look right. So we're just going to keep it open rafters on the inside. And this beam will probably be like a 4x10, so we wanted to kind of read like the lower level. So we brought the sun down to we're about 4 inches, so this beam will just read like 6 inches like the other ones, and it'll just be kind of like a 1x piece of fascia over the front of that beam. And then we have the corbels, and the beam stops here, and then you see the edge there. So let's see. So that's pretty much it. We just brought the roof out. There's about an 8-inch overhang here. The other eaves are 14-inch eaves here. But proportionally, if you look from the side back here on this, my brother cut a section. There's the corbels. There's the beam, and this is actually the piece of the sun, English sunrise. So it comes down a little bit lower. And then this is the eave here in the front of it. And this is the wall of the building at the back where the door is. The door's down here.
Okay.
So it's
And is
pretty
there a
much...
last sheet on this page?
Well, the last couple sheets are just all the elevations and then the solar sheets. Since it was for final, we put in the solar site plan and then the solar elevations for that mod.
Okay. All right. If that's all for your presentation, I'll open up public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this project? Seeing nobody, are there any letters?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have one letter of opposition from Ms. Paula Westbury.
Okay, I'll close public comment and return it back to the board for questions of the applicant. Mr. Zimmerman.
I think when we're talking about putting the posts in, we were going to try to pick up some detail instead of...
All right, the scroll work underneath instead of just the corbels match, and we can do this scroll work if you...
Yeah, these seem really small in comparison to, what we got down here. Are you going to put one going in both directions?
Yeah, actually, we've got to erase some.
They're really small. I'm just wondering if those could be a little larger so that we can, see the detail better.
Okay. Well, we can make them proportional because this is like an 11-foot, and this is just going to be like a 7-foot.
I think that's what we sized them by, so we can make them a little bigger, though.
Right.
I have a question. The bracket that's here, how wide is it? And then the brackets that are here, because these are existing original from the house, how wide are those?
1.5 inches.
The existing ones? They're not 3 inches or 2.5?
No.
He actually, I think he drew.
I think he'd dimension them there.
That's the bigger one.
Excuse me. There are two different kinds of brackets.
Actually, there's
Okay.
two.
There's I call it the lower profile bracket that sticks only forward. That is
It's like 2 inches.
2 inches.
Yeah, like this
But
one.
these with the holes in them are 1.5 inches because I had to recreate several of those that had been destroyed and it was 1.5 inches. 2x8, 2x12 vertical grain redwood, but it comes out to 1.5 inches, 1 5/8.
Okay. I guess I had another question. Looking at this connection right here, the
Right.
way this is resolved, and the way that this is resolved, and then I go to this point how there was basically a board, horizontal board in these brackets. I was wondering if did you look at a way of somehow getting a bracket or some kind of detailing so that this kind of language was happening in this area, or what was preventing you from sort of marrying a similar solution?
Well, we studied basically boxing the eave and pulling this all the way out and then just covering up the bottom. Is pretty much what we looked at. If you see a picture of the house, that's the way that these guys are done right now. But then when we hipped the roof, we took them off. So we didn't box the bottom of the eave. Since we have corbels up underneath here, I don't know We didn't think that it would look right to have one connecting it to the corner, because that's sticking way out from the post. Right?
It would be right over here. It'd be some kind
Right.
of element right there.
Right, connecting from here to here.
Okay.
Because we didn't extend the
Every
post all
inside
the way
corner
across.
has one of these, right?
Well, here there's one
Right.
that has it on 3 sides.
Right.
So I know it gets really busy and fussy, but you still could have 3 of them right there without being the end of the world. But it's more like to study to see how it's going to look. Was my question if you looked into that.
Well, we thought about it, but we wanted to stop the beam and just do like a typical
Okay.
roof overhang right there, rather than bringing this beam all the way across and then softening underneath and putting a corbel there.
Okay. Questions from anybody else? Oops.
How's the
Aaron?
sun feature being detailed? Is that cut out or?
Cut out of wood, yes.
Yeah.
I made the old one. So.
It starts thicker at the bottom, and as it moves up, it just gets thinner. So it's made out of like
The
1 inch board.
that was made out of 1-inch plywood. The rays are a V groove between each of them. The dark stripe painted down the center. The sun is red. The rays are blue. Yes, it's not painted. It has actual physical relief. The sun sticks out a little farther than the rays.
Three-dimensional. Sun sticks out about 1.5 inches, and then the rays start at about 1.5 inches, and then they fade.
Do you have a connection for the post and beam there? Maybe without getting into a metal connector? That's going to make a big difference. Like maybe put a rebar,
Oh yeah, yeah.
A drift pin kind
a
of
Right.
drip pin.
Yes,
Because
we
it
did
doesn't
on the
seem
older
like there's a
house.
whole lot of...
Yeah, there's not enough room. You're right. We've done that
And
on
then-
some older wood columns, but not necessarily on new construction. That way there'd be no metal connector.
Right.
The other choice is you go with 4x connectors with the metal stuff, and then you dress it with 1x.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we have to box it out.
But then that's how it looks like a finished beam, but you still have the structural connection. And that's someone else's call, not ours.
Yeah, that would work. 6x6. We could box it out.
Okay. One other question I had is sometimes in older houses there's like a little plate that happens right here that this bracket rests on, and then that's the way the siding goes into that. Does that condition exist anywhere else
No.
on this house?
The brackets just go right on the siding or the...
So where here does it go on the siding elsewhere?
Excuse me, the bender board or this
It goes on this one
It goes
board.
on like that belly band.
the belly
Yeah.
band, excuse me.
Okay. Any other discussions from people? We'll go into comments.
I do have a question.
Okay, go for it.
Thank you. It's just, this has been here so many times, and I can't remember, is the color going to be just to match existing?
Yes.
And is there going to be a new roof?
There's already a new roof that gets modified to incorporate the architectural
Okay,
changes.
so those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's jump into comments. Does anybody have a comment about the architecture or the landscaping?
I think it's a big improvement, the gable coming out, and I think it would have been a mistake to put the flat roof there.
Correct.
And
I like
so
the sun coming out.
I think this is a big improvement.
Okay. Anything from anybody else? If not, I'll jump in. Somehow I still feel this is too small and too diminutive, and having that board behind it either painted a different color or the same makes this more prominent. And I think that's a more Victorian detail solution than what you have here. And somehow this is too simplistic. They would have spent more time in
Right.
coming up with something fussier.
True.
And so I'm going to ask you to come up with something fussier to make it look more like this fussiness and this fussiness. Just because the style of the house has all this Victorian doodad stuff, so something has to happen here to be of the same vocabulary, plus this is the front elevation. It's something they can handle at the consent calendar. I think we need a detail here, and we need to have a detail of the sunray so that there's more information about how it's being put together just for the file.
Okay.
Even though you've already built one, there's not a detail for that. And is this a bracket right here that happens in the center of the sunlight?
Right, it's the same one.
Same one as all those. Okay. That's what my eyeball sees. Denise?
Since I'm looking at the top of the posts below, there's a lot of ornamentation on the top there, right under the brackets, and that would be a nice thing to carry up.
We didn't talk about that, but that's what Jim mentioned earlier. The scroll work on this 6x6 beam needs to happen, and it doesn't have to be exactly like this, but there needs to be some similarity. If this is an 8x, this is a 6x, you need to have something that's cool. So, and then you can go crazy and we won't stop you, but it needs to have some more embellishment.
Okay.
Those have a couple ripped-in bands and
That's what I'm
few
talking
holes.
about, right there. The
Yeah.
banding, ornamental banding, I think would be nice to
Yeah, we
carry
have some
through.
good pictures in the file of that.
But we
Yeah.
will match the...
Well, it would be good to have some a detail of what that is, or you have a photograph and you say, my detail is going to look like this photograph, and so then the inspector's there and he realizes what the final vision is going to be.
Photo that kind of captures all that.
Yeah, it was a big one, this one. This on the report, that's what it looks like up close, kind of.
That's what we'd replicate in miniature. Not miniature, but slightly scaled down.
But we're also trying to make it a little bit subordinate to the main front porch as well, but
Yeah. And the way that this is a box soffit down here, which is this condition right here.
right.
So there's no reason why, and even this is a flat soffit, this element. So you can do a flat soffit here and tie it into the vocabulary of what you're doing, instead of having the exposed tails or whatever you're planning on doing at that point right there.
Right.
To stay within the vocabulary of what's going on. So does someone want to float a motion or comment or question? Yeah.
On the, do you envision the little pads here, for lack of a better way, as a rectangular object or more heraldic kind of shield, or?
You can decide what you want. It would be like a 2x4 with eased edges if your 1x4 is landing
Just
on it,
round
or
it
your
out.
1x. You can go 2.5 inches. It's just something, and then the siding goes to that point versus the siding going through, and then you've got a weird angle.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Something of that nature.
Yeah, we were trying to keep up behind the sun open, so if we box the eave, we have to carry it all the way back.
You just carry it
and
back to
beadboard
this
the whole
wall,
ceiling. Right.
Just
to the
to the beam.
main
to the main wall
Right.
over here.
So then you're boxing the whole ceiling.
And this bracket here doesn't have to have the same thing that happens here.
Right.
Because the sun is more important, but I mean,
I can almost see leaving that out with the sun there.
then if that's the case, then you need to put some molding, some crown molding in that area to tie that connection. And those are kind of the fussy details that we're not really seeing.
Yeah, we were going to put a piece of molding under the sun too as well. That way it kind of gives a little bit of a reveal as well.
Well, let me float a motion and see if this meets everyone's satisfaction. The project is moving in the good direction. Project is to return to consent for final with the following comments: that the scroll work needs to be added to the 6x6 post at the upper balcony. A detail for the sunburst needs to be included on the plans. Applicant is to study adding a backer board to the braces supporting the gable fascia. And applicant is to study boxing in the overhang at the second floor balcony. Someone want to take credit for that, because I can't?
Make that motion, that sounded like everything I had written down.
Okay, Bernie, is there a second? Second by Denise. Does anyone have any comments or changing of the wording to make it sound better? Any other comments?
So, return on consent.
Return on consent, just so that these details are included in the drawing so that the inspector in the field knows what we're asking for. Otherwise, we might get what's shown on these elevations. So if you want to include some notes about this crown molding in these two different areas, it can be added to the plan.
And we'll provide the colors.
And if there's not a color board with the file, then definitely bring a color board.
Mr. Chair, and is the landscaping already approved? I know we looked at that a couple of weeks ago.
We actually, if the landscaping is ready for final, we can give landscaping final right now. First view. Do you want to modify the motion to say that landscaping is final?
I'm wondering about the spacing, the number of boxwood you have here.
Well, why don't we modify the motion to include a spacing that you think is appropriate, and then we have it returned to final on consent. Denise, since you were the seconder, can you do that?
Sure. One of those about can to can and a 1 gallon. You didn't really call out sizes or anything.
Well, it's your call.
So if you're going to plant 1 gallons, then it's just basically 1 foot on center.
Okay.
And that would need a lot more plants. It could be 1.5.
Should we add that to the motion, I think?
We are.
Okay.
The Black Beauty?
It's a green beauty.
Green Beauty.
Green beauty boxwood planted, 1 gallons planted, let's say 7.5.
Okay. Is that okay with the person who first the motion?
And
Okay.
also, I just handed down the color board, and I think that we should at least look at that when they come back to consent, just to verify that it's very colorful and playful, but we just want to make sure it's not too far over the top. I have.
People walking by love that color.
Yeah.
It's very colorful. It's similar, actually.
My take on it is that it's a Victorian house, and Victorian houses look this way, and in 5 years or 20 years, it's going to be repainted another variety of colors. So,
Been that color for 25 years.
well, good. So I'm actually okay with it. It's matching existing, and it is, fun and fanciful. So I don't sense a problem with this or an issue. So with that, we have a motion on the board. It's returned to consent for final. Any other discussion matters? With that, I'll call for vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair?
Just for 1 second.
My pen for 1
Mr.
second.
Chair,
I promise.
can I just ask that, given that this is an enforcement case, give it a 1 week or a 2 week continuance?
Let me ask you guys, what would you like since it's an enforcement case? 1 week or 2 week final on consent?
Couple weeks.
2 weeks.
Just get it right.
Okay.
Do we need to add anything about the guidelines?
We already gave it preliminary approval, which took care of all those issues. So you guys can have this one, and we'll save that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I can give that back to staff. Moving on to item 2. This is 1409 La Cima Road. This is a continued item, so I won't read the project description.
This was the one I stepped down on last time, so I guess I'm going to do that.
So just need
Oops, I got one more here.
Yeah, so I'll step down on
Okay.
this because of the circles.
Okay. We're going to start with reading the motion from 2 weeks ago.
Number 1, the reduction in size and scale of the proposal is appreciated. Provide information about the hardscape. Provide a survey or aerial photographs identifying the neighborhood and context of the neighbors in relation to the site. Further refine any architectural elements such as the turret or the mid-level roof. 5, study trash enclosure sharing with neighbors who share the easement. Provide an arborist report specifically addressing the existing oak tree.
And that's it?
And that's it.
Wonderful. Can I have your name for the record?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, my name is Justin Van Mollem. I'm with On Design Architects.
Great. Do you happen to have that arborist report?
I do have an arborist report. It's from the old
Does it address
project.
building in that area?
It does, and we're working it out with staff to see if it's even triggered now with the reduction. If you take a look at, these are the 2 oak trees. Here's our critical root zone. And so the critical root zone pretty much stays outside of the area of disturbance now. So this was the old area of disturbance. On this plan right now, I have the old project kind of overlaid in that light color. And you can see this has a retaining wall and driveway that was impacting these 2 oaks.
So if you don't mind, I'll carry forward that item that staff is to review just so we don't drop it.
Right. And if we could, if everything works out today, if we could just have those 2 items, there's a request for a soils report as well. But we're not sure if the project is triggering that soils report. Jaime Limon was out today, so we're trying to get some feedback on that. So if I could come back with those items, if they're still valid
Okay.
on consent, I'd appreciate that.
Good. So why don't you jump forward?
So one of the requests was that we kind of have a look at what's going on in the neighborhood. And as you can see, there's that loop right there, and there's a structure that is right here. This is the site. This is the closest neighbor. They kind of share a backyard, or they're the closest. From here over, there's quite a large slope that happens before you get to this house here or this house here. So there's a lot of distance. And then if you look at it's kind of a flat roof, modern style house. You can kind of see it in this photo, but much better. There it is right there, and there's the site, and there it is looking directly across the street from the site. It gives you a little bit better idea of what the architecture looks like in the neighborhood. Along with, there's another house that's in the neighborhood, and there's our unit right there, and then this gives you a better idea. Here's our house again, and that's going up La Cima, and there's the structure that's right here, kind of looking that way.
Okay.
So it's an interesting mix in the neighborhood. Going on to some of the requests on the site plan. We did study the front yard hardscape, and we minimized it. Here's the line for the hardscape right here. And then this is planter, and this is planter. This is a walkway that comes up to a landing that goes into the house. And so we've been able to change this into a new planter. Before we had this going all the way out to the street, we decided that it would make more sense to kind of jog it over, give this area as a planter right in front. The other question that referred to the site plan was the trash. And there was a request to see if the neighbors would be interested in doing some type of group sharing location. We studied that. I talked to the neighbors after the meeting, and they weren't interested in kind of grouping the trash in this location. So we're going to stick with this area because it's nicely hidden back behind this. And then going to the elevations. There's a couple things on the elevations that were requested. We studied. And it's easier if you can kind of see these. So this is that back element, and there was one of the board members said if we could just take a look at that and study it to see if we could bring down the mass of that. And so we studied it several times and came up with a solution that took away the stucco and the turret concept, but still we have this porch with some wrought iron and some scroll work and this nice little element here. So we've simplified it. And then on this elevation right here, there was a request to take a look at this area to see if we could further make a reduction in the mass here to have a better relationship with the existing house and the new structure. And you can see how we did that on, let's see, yes, right there, thank you, on that elevation. So we've just kind of carried that roof line down, that's over the stairs, but in the area where there's a bathroom, we kept that plate height. It does a nice job, I think, of reducing that mass in that area. And then we've already talked about the soils report and the arborist report. We're trying to see if there's a need for it any longer because of the reduced scope of the project, significant reduced scope of the project.
Okay, anything else?
I think that's it.
All right, I will open up public comment. I have one speaker slip, and if there's anybody else, I need the speaker slip. First speaker will be Margie Mainquist. Hello, hello.
Hi, my name is Margie Mainquist. I am the nearest neighbor to this house, and it's really kind of strange, but there was no picture of my house on the houses shown. So that would be my first
Just
concern.
for the record, this is the elbow. So is this your house? Right here? If this is like the quick turn, and the garages are going to be here, and this was that flat contemporary one. Are you this easement?
Yes.
So this is
Right
your
here.
house?
Yeah, it's probably not
Okay.
20 feet.
Oh, so here, it's down here as well. Okay. It's just so that we all know where your house is at.
Okay, so one of the requests I had was last time was to know the elevations of the roof line, which is still not clear. And that's the big concern, that because I'm on that side where the house was actually everything was going to be blocked before, so it would be really helpful to see where the south elevation of the roof line is. And then I still think it's critical that this board or someone addresses the two issues around parking. As you saw in one of the pictures today, there must have been 4 or 5 trucks that were coming down the hill, which are just really at the edge of where that house is. So big trucks coming up, cars, parking, it's really an issue on that road. And there is no parking in front of the structure. And then finally the construction issue, I think, because there's a small turnaround, so I think the neighbors, those of us who are here and those who couldn't come, are interested in how is the construction going to be handled in terms of all the trucks and the parking and everything, because it is a private road and we pay to maintain that road.
Okay.
So that's our concern.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wanting to speak on this matter? Are there any letters?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Do you have a letter of opposition from Ms. Paula Westbury?
Okay. I'll return it back to the board for questions of the applicant. First question is for staff that I have. It says comments only, project requires environmental assessment. Can we give this project preliminary approval, or are there outstanding issues preventing us from doing that today?
No, as the applicant stated, we want to wait to confirm from Jaime Limon regarding the soils report and as well the arborist report. Those, even though the project has been minimized since the original proposal, those are unresolved issues, so
Okay.
we have to wait.
We'll have to wait. Okay. Questions from the board for the applicant?
Mr. Chair,
Aaron, you're up.
the rear garage door, where is the hardscape for that? Are you going to have sort of a turf block or something, or what?
There's no hardscape proposed for that rear garage door. At this point, I don't see that a lot of vehicles moving back and forth through that area. It's more of, for construction, we'll be able to bring a lot of items through there. We'll be able to park trucks in that location. But for the final plan, I foresee more of grass than hardscape.
Okay, and then the same question for the door coming off the living room. Is there an existing, the south side of the living room?
Over here by the dining room?
So that one and
Oh,
that
here.
one.
Over
Yeah.
here.
There is an existing patio. It's just not shown on that, and it's very small. It's just what's underneath the overhang on that door that's by the fireplace.
And then on the east side,
East side. I'm not following you.
is this a door here?
Oh,
That is not a door. There is a door there currently, but it will be removed.
okay. Questions from anybody else? I had a question having to do with the elevation. The one with the turret versus that version, if you can put that up. Which does your applicant prefer? Which do you guys prefer? Because we asked for you to study it. One board member had a concern about it being heavy and massive. You did what we asked you to do. You came up with something, and in the process, the owner fell in love with it? Or...
I wouldn't say the owner fell in love with it. It does save a little bit of money. What we talked about with the owner is that at final, if there is a real emotional attachment to that element, that they want to see that element again, we will have that opportunity to bring that detail back.
Okay.
And if the board would allow.
Okay. That is all the questions I have.
Mr. Chair, before you go into comments, let me just justify mostly for the neighbors regarding the parking question. This property is a single-family residential unit, so the only requirement for parking is that they have a two-car garage, two-car covered parking. We understand that there's no street parking on the street. However, they're not required to have guest parking for a single-family residence. And actually, the way the zoning ordinance reads, we actually discourage, and it's not allowed to have parking in the front setback or the front yard. So transportation will review the garage dimensions and the ingress into the garage, but that's all we can do for the parking on the parking configuration.
Can you also address construction and the concerns they had in the sense that construction activity might happen on their private road? Is that something our board reviews?
Staff can make conditions of approval for the construction. And that usually includes time of hours of operation and et cetera. We have sort of standard development conditions of approval for construction, which we could put on the project, make that a condition of approval.
Okay.
And also, Mr. Chair, just to follow up, we can't grant preliminary today, but if the board feels comfortable with the design, you can just give the positive comments and, like the applicant requested, continue this to consent if you feel it's ready to go to consent.
Okay. So we're on to this comments for the applicant.
Mr. Chair.
Denise.
I think it's a great improvement what you did here, and I think it's looking really nice proportionally. I think better without the tower, personally. I like the detail underneath. I think that it looks very, very balanced, and that it's a good design.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Zimmerman, you want to go?
I like the tower, but
Is your microphone on? Yes, it is.
yeah, I think it has a really nice touch there. If you don't do the tower, I think it might look better to maybe round it, put a round balcony, because with this
Right.
detail underneath, I think something round
Might feather out
look
nicely.
well there, yeah. And then on the height, the neighbor's concerned about the height, not knowing how high it's going to be. Are we going to ask for story poles, or?
I'll jump into comments. The neighbor made reference to the south elevation because this is the elevation that is seen by her on that private easement or the driveway. The course of the construction is on the opposite side of the existing house. I want to say it's not an issue from our board, even though it is a concern for her. The house is I want to say it's a small addition. It's a small improvement. I don't sense it as a problem. And I go back to where the house is. Her house actually is here in the location of the garage. It's so far away. I don't have concern. I mean, It's
Yeah, I agree.
it's not right on top of her and all these other things. There's so much distance involved that it's not something that we should be scrutinizing and be concerned with.
I think the two-story, being that it's on the other side of the house, I don't think that height is going to have any impact.
The other interesting thing is that it is a semi-split level in the sense that the garage was like a half a floor down or 4 feet. So it's really a story and a half, not a true two-story. And that is shown in the elevations. And that's just, oops. It's what we as architects can see in a set of drawings when we see the elevation up here and the garage is lower and this is up. That also diminishes the overall height of the structure when viewing it from this eastern side or southern side. The issue about the tower, I happen to be like Mr. Zimmerman, and I like the fanciful funness of it. And I would encourage you folks to go this direction if that's what your owner wants. It's a way of him personalizing it for himself, and that just brings him joy. What I wanted to point out to some board members is where that's happening in relationship to the property. It's so far back in the corner and far away in the interior part of his property that it's just something that's a fun little pop. And anything that we can do to encourage a person to personalize it for themselves makes them happy, and it gets architecture outside of the ordinary. So I would go back to you and your owner and ask them, but thank you for looking into it because that's what we asked you to do. And the other comment I was missing, Aaron mentioned about the patio over here to have some additional notes. I was thinking we need to have some type of notes about the connection, stepping stones or something. From my experience, you're doing a second-story building, you will need to do a soils report, period. If it was one story and it was less than 500 square feet, you might be able to wiggle around it. But you are doing a two-story structure that will require soils report.
The concern wasn't about the soils report. They were requiring a soils report prior to preliminary approval.
Oh, have you ever seen that before? Yeah, unless you have like known landfall areas, but that's a city planning thing then. Okay.
Sure.
Aaron.
I guess I'm sort of with Denise on the tower.
That's fine.
The new design is it's more simple, diminutive, classic Santa Barbara design to me. What I was going to say about it is instead of this ironwork here seems unresolved. Maybe there should be a wood post there. Might help. The other comment has to do with the front walkway. I like what I see in elevation here with the two columns like that. However, they're turned 90 degrees on the plan. So if there's any way to have this walkway meet with the road, I think that would be a benefit.
We could do both. Or meet
Yeah,
with
you'd probably want to do both.
If Denise, you want to go?
Yes, sure. I actually have to go back to a question. I'm curious about on the same sheet, this curved area here.
Can you point right
I'm not
here?
understanding it very well, and it looks like it's in the middle of the road, so
It's existing.
It's existing, and so the road actually curves away from that center line. I see.
That's where it makes that
Okay.
Hairpin turn.
yes.
Okay.
And then
Is
this
it a
turns into
wall
her.
or is it a?
It's a retaining wall,
It's a retaining wall.
about 3.5 feet tall, maybe
I
3
see.
feet tall.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you proposing any fencing or anything along this, between this road and your house?
There is an existing fence that we'll probably repair.
Okay. Is that noted on your site plan?
It is not.
Okay. The question now is, does the board want to see this one more time, full board, move it on to consent for preliminary? And then the issue is about the balcony. We're kind of semi-split, and how we want to approach that between the four of us.
That would be one reason to have it come back to full board.
Okay, then that's it.
I'm not really a full board.
Yeah, we're missing 2 members, so let's make a motion for an indefinite continuance back to full board with the following comments. Does someone want to make them?
had them written down.
All right, I'll make
if I can
them.
have your list.
The first one is the applicant to review the turret design with the owner to decide which direction the owner would like to go and present that to the board. So then you don't have to have this change after final stuff, or change after preliminary. Applicant is to show stepping stones to the trash area. The applicant is to work out a resolution for the front walkway so that the elevations match the site plan. The applicant is to show existing hardscape on the south for the patio off the living room area. The applicant is to show the existing fence along the south property line, the southwest property line, and note if it's to be existing to remain or if it's going to be repaired or replaced. And applicant is to address the oak tree concerns with staff prior to coming back to the full board, as well as the soils report. And applicant is to work with staff for conditions for construction to protect the existing private road to the south. So is there a first and a second on such a motion? First by Aaron, second by Denise. Is there any other discussion? Right now it's an indefinite continuance because you've got to take care of these other issues.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So with that, we call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll be back with more information on the tour.
And then as color board, when you're all set and done, make that part preliminary.
Thank you.
Keep that. We need one set of plans and the photographs that he gave to us. Thank you. We are on the last item for tonight, and that is 1253 Dover Lane. This is a new project, so I will read the project description. This is a proposal for a 373 square foot first floor addition and a 737 square foot second floor addition and demolition of 85 square feet on the first floor to an existing one-story, 1,218 square foot single-family residence with a detached 498 square foot two-car garage in the Hillside Design District. The proposal will result in 2,143 square foot residence with an attached 498 square foot two-car garage. The proposed total of 2,641 square feet is 77% of the maximum floor to area ratio. So if you have your name for the record in your presentation.
Yes, Tim Mason. I'm the owner of the property. As you read, I'm adding on to the first floor, expanding it out. It's a small house. And then adding a master bedroom and bath on the second floor.
If you don't mind, let's start with a couple of photographs that you have, just so that people who didn't visit the site can get their bearings straight. Do you want me to just go through them, or do you want to explain?
Well, I'll start at the bottom. That's Sierra Street. There's Sierra Road, Sierra Street. This is Sierra Lane or Sierra Hill up above it. The front of the house, you can see there's a living room. The structure on the left is a living room that I did 2 years ago. The two-car garage I did a year ago to move it back into the setback. To the right of that is the east neighbor, and you can see the hill behind. Those houses are approximately 50 to 70 feet above my existing house. It's very steep back behind my house and back up. The top view, the back of the house, you can see that this existing portion on the left is the old, board and bat style of house. The reason I have this picture of this bedroom to be saved, and that's where that little chimney is that little bedroom area is about 3 foot above the existing level of the existing house, so that an addition really can't come back and set on top of that. And then to the right of that, you're looking at a roof, and this is a living room that I did, and these are pictures of that from the inside. And needless to say, I just did that 2 years ago, so I don't want to tear that ceiling off and build on top of that. So if we get back to the plans, you'll see that from looking at the garage, my plan is to come back on the garage, start a living space there, and then go back farther to reduce the bulk and scale and size, and add a master bedroom to the back of that.
Well, let's go take a look at the plans then. I think we got a good understanding. This way, if someone's interested.
Here's one more picture that might help. This is a model that I did when I started on the project. This garage was down on the very front of the project in the setback, not up to code. Just everything was wrong with it. So it got moved back here. This was done. So so what I've done is I'm moving back off the garage, then having a porch to take advantage of the views, and then stepping back again with the master bedroom in the back, so that at this stage where the garage, it's about 1.5 stories on the first, the tallest part is just a small section of about 5 to 8 feet back here, where it becomes 2 stories plus about 3 foot of crawl space underneath there. On the other side of the house, the steps just follow the terrain right on up, and so you lose this depth, and it just fills itself up right to what will be the front door on the other side of the house.
Great. You're going to put us out of business. It's a good model.
My cat likes it.
Okay. So your setbacks here.
Right. 10 foot on the side, 30 on the front, and 10 on the back.
Okay. Demo plan. This is proposed first floor. This is that photograph of the chimney that you showed us.
Yeah, right. This is the existing family room. This is that small bedroom in the back. That's
and this is the existing fireplace to remain as well.
Yeah, this exists, and if it helps, what I'm doing, this is how it sits now, the existing that sits now, this being in the setback. Is basically, I want to just, well, as you can see, it's a little galley kitchen, a little bedroom, and we use this as a dining room. More or less just turning this way and then expanding it to bring the size of
this is the existing house that's being demolished.
Yes.
So when it's all removed, this is what you have left.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and your stairs, you start your stairs up here and you go around?
Well, this, from the main level, we come up this way. This area is about 3 foot above this.
Okay.
And then from there, it will come up to the second
So that comes
story.
up to this point, and then you get into this bedroom area.
Yes.
All you know. Okay. Look at the elevations. Okay. Do you happen to know what the overall height is from the face of the garage door to this eave?
Oh, shame on me. I can add this up very... Basically, it's
10, 20,
about
30.
34 feet.
I would say 30 feet. That's, 34 feet. Okay. This is the side facing, this is the existing part that you've already built.
Yes.
And this is side faces the property line.
Right.
Comes on up. And this is the existing house that remains in the existing fireplace. And this is a section. Okay. I think we understand the project.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I might just make a comment, might want to look at that a little more closely. I don't know how they're, it's really even though it appears from the street to be 3-story, that it will indeed be a 2-story house, the garage in front. But I just want to confirm that the entire overall height of the building is a maximum of 30 feet, because that is the maximum allowed for a single-family residence.
Let me get a drawing real fast. If we look at, the camera guy can zoom in on this drawing, the 30-foot limit is based upon what grade is, either the existing grade or the alter grade. And then what we also like to look at is the apparent height of what the overall mass is, but the 30-foot is not a required for the apparent mass. And this case, it's 27. This was 37, 27, 37. We want to minimize it, but it's not an overall. We have approved projects just because of the hillside and things that are stacking back. We just don't want to see a huge elevation that's 25 feet above grade. So there is a little bit of play in there, and he's at 34 feet.
That's for the
Yeah,
For the
and yes,
apparent height.
and down the side I'm at 29 feet, and like I tried to point out, that 29 feet exists of living space is just in about a 5 or 8 foot section.
Okay. Anything else from staff? Okay. I'll open up public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak? Seeing nobody step up, do we have any letters?
We do have a letter of opposition from Ms. Paula Westbury.
Okay. You have archive drawings there for any particular reason?
Just for reference, if you wanted to see them.
Okay. Good. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
I'm still trying to get clear here. So in looking at this little photo, you're demoing this entire section that's the board and bat section
Excuse me.
of the house?
It will become stucco, but no, this section stays. That's an existing bedroom and bathroom.
I see.
And if I did not show you the pictures of that from the inside, that's...
If you don't mind, can I put those two here for the TV guy to zoom in on? So is this the bedroom that we're saving, and that's the fireplace that we're
Yes.
saving?
Oh, okay.
Yes, and that's...
And this is from the exterior.
Yes, that's this area here.
And this is the existing one-story that you showed us the other photograph for
Yes.
that we're saving?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Bernie?
can you show us where the roof deck is?
Roof deck by...
Well, it's on here.
Oh,
Let me go to that
I'm
one
here
sheet.
without a pencil. May
Just,
I?
you can point with that.
Thank you. Yes, this is a deck here.
It's a
That would
cover.
be the deck off the kitchen dining room. Here.
Is that what you're calling the roof deck right here, or is that another one?
What we're going to do is go back to the sheet she's looking at.
It's A6.
A6, here's the garage, and this is the garage, and then he steps back to a covered roof, which is right here.
Yes.
And then there's this room, and then there's another upper
Yes,
deck.
that deck is off the bedroom up here.
This was 30 feet back, so this is about 34, and this would be about 45 feet back. Because if this garage is 20 feet,
Yes, 24 feet.
24, so you might be 50 feet at this point. Okay. That's a good question. Questions from someone else? I had a question. How do you get to the front door if I was a guest?
Up to the right-hand side of the garage.
Can you show us on the site plan?
Yes, it would come. I have these existing steps here. I have steps here that will be remodified with the addition, and it will come up over here. And if you look at
So the actual front door is somewhere right over here?
Yes.
How does it look in elevation? I guess I missed that. Oh, there it is.
Yes, it would be here.
Okay.
And to break up that mass, the building steps back here about 13 inches to keep it in the setback. Then I plan to set the the door back a couple of feet, do the little eyebrow, the bar window in front of this window, and then here do that little 18-inch overhang, the all wood look to the window here to just kind of break this whole area.
I'm going to go to the plan real fast so we can see that. So here is that break, and here's the front door.
Right.
Here's that eyebrow, and this is your bump out.
Yes,
at the
on the
bedroom.
second story.
Okay. Any other questions?
Did you look at having the front door in the middle of the structure, coming up the left side of the
Oh, yes. When I originally designed it, that was my idea. But if we would jump back to this page, A4, now what happens, there's it's about 3 to 4 foot stone wall that runs across there. So and there's a tree right here, and it ends up now in front of my existing living room and the deck in front of the living room. And no matter how, I thought, of course, I wanted to try to turn that to bring it up to have a nice look to it. It just took up so much space, and there were so many steps in such a short area that it was, to me it offended the view looking out from here to just look and see the steps there, and then see people coming out, and it's kind of, you'd have to be on the project to see it. But yeah, originally that's what I planned to do, and I actually landscaped it to accommodate that, but in reality it was just too steep right in front of the living room.
So to follow up on that, is there any way of getting from this main level to this front landscape area, or is this landscape area only accessible from the driveway location?
That would...
Do you understand my question?
Yes, that would be accessible from either this side of the house or out the back door here and back around.
So there's no stairs, there's no door on this mid-level that has stairs that come down to this
To
plan?
that front little level, no.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from people? If not, we can jump into comments. Who would like to go first?
I have a few comments.
Miss Bernie.
Okay, thank you. I'm having some concerns about the size, bulk, and scale of this property, of this project, because even though it reads 77% maximum, it's really a lot bigger than that. There's a lot of uncounted covered deck areas, a whole lot of them, and they really add to the bulk of what the public is going to see from down below. And so I haven't seen the landscape plan. That might offer some mitigation, but it's still, to me, it seems like maybe that we would want to see some further reductions in the size and the height.
Okay. Questions from or comments from somebody else?
Mr. Chair, I'll concur with Bernie. I don't think it's the square footage, it's just the way the building's massed. The decks do contribute to some mass in the front, and I'm just having concerns with how the new is blending with the existing. It feels like two different buildings almost. And the apparent height is a concern I have as well.
Okay. I had a quick question. What is the floor-to-floor in each of these three floors? I went to the section. I didn't quite see it. Is it 9 feet with 12-inch TJIs?
Yes.
Basically, because it's 10 foot whatever?
Yes.
Okay. Comments from other people? If not, I'll jump in. Mildly, I have a concern with the bulk, but not a lot. The model does a lot. It says a lot about the architecture. The one thing I'm looking at is this covered roof area, which is this covered roof area. If that became a slope going the other direction, following something like that, that will bring back and soften this edge. I went to the site today. I mean, you're 30 feet away. You are so far back. I'm not too worried about the trickling down because it's broken up really nicely in the design. Architecturally, this floating out here was mildly concerned, but since you're not going to have people coming through, it's very on the interior side, but I think that's kind of, I don't quite understand all of this, even though you explained how that's a crawl space access and things. But I think softening this covered roof area or just making it a trellis or a flat trellis, flat roof area would help on the front massing. On the front elevation, well, I agree with Aaron that something's not quite right here, and I didn't quite study it enough. Or maybe not right. The marriage between the what building you want to save and the new building, I didn't quite study it enough to say, but it looks a little bit funky, and I'll just leave it at that. The front elevation here, the one thing that's missing is this elevation moves in 15 inches.
Yes.
But I noticed your post over here didn't, and the wall did beyond. It actually might help the elevation if this comes in and this is a little bit wider, even though you lost 15 inches of your balcony. I'm just sensing a little bit of this straight line is kind of getting really hard.
Yeah, the 15-inch setback is actually back here, and actually I should not have that line there. This should be there.
I'm noticing there's something not quite 100% right here, and I was comparing the two.
That line should not be there. That actually is a setback.
But I can tell with what you have already done in the house, detailing-wise here and here, as your photographs, it's going to be very well done, articulated nicely. I'm not too concerned. The massing, just because this is a gable end and it doesn't have to be a gable end, it could be a softer end or a different type of trellised roof up there, will really help push that back even further. So those are my comments.
Do a hip out on the end of that.
Though that's my comment, but I'm only one person.
Yes.
I mean, it could even be just a straight flat roof, not even a hip. Comments from other people?
Yeah, I think the hips would be a big help, even on the lower deck area.
Down here, too.
Yeah, because right now, the gable's adding, adding a lot of height.
Yeah. I was gabled everywhere on the existing, and I kind of stayed with it, but
I think that the transition from the new to existing in the back, it's on the side, you really don't see it that much. It'd be different if it was, if you had a lot of exposure to it. But I think the hips would be a good change.
Okay. Aaron, do you have anything else?
Anything you can do to make the second and third stories, I'm just calling them that, read differently, make them unique. Maybe some stone on the second story. Carry that over.
From the front.
I'm just saying this stone here. Maybe I can carry over into this wall, or just break up all this stucco.
Yes.
Okay. So with that, let's put together a motion. And do you want to come back in 4 weeks or indefinite continuance when you just do your drawings and put yourself back on?
Yeah, it'll be indefinite because at the 4-week period I'll be out of town. So I won't.
Okay. We'll just make an indefinite continuance. Would someone like to wrap up our comments?
I'll give it a try, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Brian.
We would like the applicant to return to the full board with the following comments. Number one is to study the second and third roof lines and bring them down. Number two would be study reducing the overall bulk and massing and height. And number 3 would be bring along a landscape plan so we can see how that's going to soften the overall design. Number 4 would be study the entrance and what were we saying about that?
The front door location? Or?
I think we were saying study the entrance and make it spelled out where it is, and then add materials to the upper 2 floors to add detailing. That's all I got.
Okay.
That's a good start.
We need a second on the motion, and then we can comment on the motion, go into discussion.
Second.
Second by Denise. Any discussion? Just something
Yeah,
I
I'd
could...
like-
Oh, you go.
Yeah, I'd like to add, when you put the hip on, it would really be nice to extend the rafter tails going around, and then expose that hip inside on the roof of the balcony.
Yes.
So when you're looking up at it, you see the beams
very-
inside.
Yes, great look. Yeah, one of the hip things, of course, is to try to get back, to give me room to get that hip to come up here and not have it crash up. Try to get that all the points to come together here. So.
Well, this is the garage roof, and that
Yes.
already exists.
Yes.
But this one, you might be able to make a 45.
Yes, very easily.
And it'll work
Yes.
just fine.
Yes.
And then the roof up here won't be an issue either. The one that's over this.
It should be.
Yes. And that's why I had moved this. Originally, I had this just 6 foot back, but now moved it back 12 feet in case we want to do that. Hip designer's room for it.
Yeah. One thing, if you hold on, an opportunity just for you to study. You don't have to do anything, and it's not even part of the motion. But I look at it as if I was the owner of this house and I lived here and I was standing at this balcony, I'd want to go and I'd want to play down here or see something. So I would think that a staircase here or a staircase coming in here to get life to this front patio or the front landscape area, because it's really important that you're paying taxes on it. You might as well use it and drink your wine or something. But then that would be a way of resolving how this fireplace cantilevers out and it's just hanging there. But that's what I'm sensing in my mind. You might not see any need for that, but I say it's an opportunity to have some interaction between these 2 levels. And that's just something for you. It's not on the motion.
Just to follow up on that, I'd really encourage you to look at, again, at having the front door in the middle of the project. If you have to meander the steps, around to patch your grade.
It's really
For
beautiful.
3 years, I've looked at trying to do that. That's exactly my thing. I wanted it to come in there. Didn't want it to come up on the side of the house. But if you get out here, right about here is that 3 to 4 foot wall, which brings you. So that's 3 or 4 feet to get you up. Now you're still 3 feet short of. It's just a big mass of steps there to get. I mean, and now it's encroached over into here, and it's you kind of have to be there to feel it. But I'll look at it again, and I've done it in the model, and I've tried to make it work, and then I've just. But I will keep looking.
Okay, Denise.
Yes, point of clarification, please. When you're talking about changing the roofs from gable to hip, are you speaking of the existing area? That's the hip, right? And so you would extend that across the face of here on the second story.
We wouldn't touch any of this part because that's existing one story.
But the new part there.
This new part here, he could make this a sloped roof that goes back.
Yes.
Because this was 12 feet and this is 23 feet wide, he can easily get a gable end right here.
Okay.
This, or a hip roof here, this garage stays exactly the way it is because there's only 6 feet between these planes. Then up here, he can also put a hip up without a problem. Or, I mean, this choice that I had is keep it as a gable end and then make this a flat trellis that comes across. So then each floor has a little different language.
Right. I think that's really a good point. Thanks for clarifying that, because my problem with the architecture was that it looked a little wedding cake going up, like almost like the Parthenon, kind of going up and up and up, and that will, I think that would definitely mitigate that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Bernie, and then we'll wrap it up.
Motion, I just wanted to ask you if you've reviewed this design with your neighbors, or if any meetings have taken place or anything.
Oh, yes. They were so happy to see me buy this house about 5 years ago. It was in major need of repair, and so and I've worked with it. And the neighbor to my east has an approved set of plans for a house of this size, bulk and scale. And originally I ended up getting this property because I was friends with the owner of that property, and he wanted to build his, and he wanted me to build his, and then I was going to redo mine, but his has kind of been put on the back burner, so he's all happy with this, and the other neighbors are glad to see an improvement to that section of Dover Lane.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
The people behind, if you look at the photographs, are I say 50 to 70 to 100 feet up above us,
Yeah,
and
I
they,
understand. Thank you.
I think they will happy. When it gets done, it'll be two-piece mission tile roof and everything, and it's
Right.
just asphalt now, and I think they would be more than happy to see that.
Great. Is there any other discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We'll
Okay.
see you when you're ready.
Thank you.
Nice project.
Thank you.
And with that, I will end the Single Family Design Board for September 13th, which happens to be Michelle's birthday. Happy birthday. That's Good night.